Honey, we need to chat.
Welcome to
Hello.
another Chit-Chat episode
Chit-chatty,
on the
chit-chat.
podcast.
Welcome, and we have maintained our swapped seats because
We have, and I've
we actually
maintained the
prefer it.
same clothes.
Yes, well, this is the day after we recorded the previous one, so let's not judge too hard, including the fact that my eye is now a lot more red, so I'm not going to look at you.
He's going to look at me.
Yeah, so we are still switched, but that's okay. Anyway, welcome to our Chitty Chat. We have an exciting kind of interactive episode today
Yeah.
because, do you want to lead the explanation on what's happening today?
So we're going to do word for word because we
EB Games.
voucher
Whoop, for
EB Games.
For a new.
Okay, we received one of our chatters was so kind and sent us an EB Games voucher for that Zing part of EB Games. I think it's Zing or Zip or Zap.
Zing.
To get us new mugs for our T-Chat time.
The chatter heard our cry, our plea for help when we said we wanted new mugs.
Look, we haven't got sponsors yet, but we've got
do
new
have
mugs.
chatters. Anyway, but we don't know what we've gotten each other, so that's going to be our tea time.
So part of it was
segment.
he requested that I get Amy's and Amy gets mine.
Yeah.
So that's what we've done.
Yeah.
So let's get into that.
Cool.
All right, I have yours, but it's covered with crackers and our toddler's shoes because I didn't want you to see inside the bag. So I'm just going to take these out.
I also note that your bag is a lot larger than my bag.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
Yep. That's right.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. I'll take that out. One last thing, and then here is the mug that I picked out for you. So this was actually a bit harder because in Zing Zip Zap, there's less things that I think you would actually enjoy. So I've got the thing that I thought you would most enjoy.
Yeah, cool.
That's all.
All right. This is a classic unboxing. This is a big, ooh, Nightmare Before Christmas. I actually really like it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this.
Haven't you?
No, but I really like.
Oh, I thought you had seen it.
No, I want to see it.
Oh, well, I knew that had some sort of significance at some point.
I am into scary, vibey things, so I actually really appreciate this, baby.
But it's quite cool.
Also, I also like how.
Explain it.
I will. I'm just trying to get the lid out.
Oh, that noise. That noise.
There we go. Oh, it's got a little spoon. Got it.
Got it.
It's got like little styrofoam stuck to it. That is so cool. I love how interactive this mug is. That is so cool.
How cool is that?
I love that.
Yeah. Thank you, chatter.
Good.
Thank you.
Let me put the spoon in.
I wonder what it's like to drink out of.
Yeah, I know. I love this.
It looks cool.
If you're looking for a cool mug, this is the kind of mug, you know? Well, mine's not quite as interactive, but I did. Oh,
what was
smash.
That? Oh.
But
break that.
Take that. It just means someone else would have to send us a voucher to get some more. I walked around and like you said, there was a lot more things that were valid for you.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Mandalorian mug and I was like, not going to get that. You already had a Mandalorian mug.
Mm-hmm.
There was a feature on some of the mugs that I was like, I really want one of those.
Oh, really?
As in, do you know what I'm saying?
No.
Yeah, there's this. So some of the mugs are just mugs.
Yeah.
And then some of the mugs, when you put hotness in them, they show a different thing. And so there was 2 hours picking between. This one was the most valid to you, and it'll look cooler when there's heat in it, I believe.
Okay, what is this? Oh, stars, a lightsaber one. Oh, so when it's hot, the lightsaber's down. When it's what?
No, when you put hot stuff in, the lightsabers light up.
Light up. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So I'll try and do put it to the camera before we fill these up, and then I'll put it up to the camera after. So we're actually going to break now really quickly, and we're going to make some tea, and then we're going to come back and have our tea and our new mugs. Thank you so much. Shout out. That is awesome.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Hold on, let me get up to close to the camera. Put some music over this or something. Can't see. All right, time to take your first sip. I actually think that's going to be a very annoying cup to drink out of for you.
It might be a challenge, but it's like a funny thing.
Yeah. All right, just sipping.
So the lightsaber is slowly lit up.
Lit up. That's a good cup of joe. but even though it's tea.
That's a good cup of peppermint tea.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, I got to test mine.
Mm.
Take off my lid. I won't usually keep the lid and the spoon, but I just think it's such a cool spoon. Here we go. When is it coming?
It's like such a big mug.
My glasses.
Did it work?
Yeah, it did. It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's more that I know my tea is really, really hot. Cool. Well, thank you so much again, Chatter. You know who you are. We know who you are. And we are so grateful. And we are waiting everybody else's gift card.
Yes.
So. That plea for help was actually totally unintentional. We did not expect this at all, and really, really appreciate it.
But we're actually very thankful for
So
it.
thankful.
And we're gonna manipulate that again. So
yeah,
it's good. Alrighty, let's get into today's episode. So today's episode is carrying on a little bit from last week's Chit-Chat episode, where we were reading out some write-ins from some of our chatters. And yes, we're going to get into that. So we're sort of merging a couple of our chatter questions. So first one is, and this is going to kind of be T-Chat merged into
this whole episode's a bit of a T-Chat answer and question kind of.
And a bit more of a bigger question at the end there, so stick around for that. But first one is regrets. What are some regrets that you and I have or things we wish we'd done sooner?
I said to you when we were brainstorming before, I don't regret anything in the normal definition of the word. It's not like I'm like, I really regret this. There's decisions I've made that I wish I hadn't made, but I really believe you learn from everything, and everything that you experience is kind of what makes you who you are.
This one said the mug looks really good in the camera.
Oh, it does, doesn't it? Well, you're welcome. The only things that come to mind is there's a few things I wish that we had been slower to. We went right into trying to have kids really early on, and there was a reason. Like we both knew we wanted to be parents. We actually thought that we had been pregnant at one stage, and then we were disappointed, and that was kind of what triggered us being like, well, if we're disappointed that we're not pregnant, why don't we just try? But because it took us a little while to get pregnant, and I ended up needing to go on medication and stuff like that, it just
because you've got polycystic
ovaries.
So for people to understand what that is, that's pretty much your cycle is not as predictable. So and it's just such a big. It can be a big gap in between cycles and so forth. Like months. So it's just a lot harder to plan.
And thankfully, mine's not like severe. Some people it causes a lot more problems, but for me it was mostly the predictability, knowing when to try, and you run out of steam trying all the time. So it was a very all-consuming first year for many reasons, but including that. And I think obviously would never regret any of the kids we have. The timing of all of that has worked out in a way we would never ever 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 go back on. But I do wish that we had
more adventure.
I do think we could have had more adventure or just even more time to just be instead of rushing. That's something I feel like I struggle with, is just being and enjoying the present. I think actually probably right now is the first time I've really just relaxed. Like we were hanging out with our baby earlier. Yeah. And I said, it's so nice to just be free to just enjoy him being a baby. Even with all the other kids, I just felt rushed to like have another kid or move on to the next stage or whatever. And this time we've got like this kind of peace. So I think stuff like that, not rushing to have kids, maybe prioritizing. I really wish we'd understood more about buying houses when we were younger. There's a few things that happened that meant we delayed it, and we actually could have, and I'm not even sure how. Like we went to a broker and it just was confusing. We definitely could have afforded it better than we did when we ended up buying one. So I kind of wish we'd felt more confident and clear in those kinds of life things and explored it a little bit slower and more than we did. But I don't regret any of that. It's just if I could look back and test that out, that would be something that I'd look into.
Yeah, I don't have any regrets. I have these moments where, like in my head, I sort of cringe over. So, my burnout and the impact that that's had on the family, that's had on you, and just that ongoing mental health issues that have come from that burnout. That's something, it's not a regret. It is what it is, but it's one of those things that really stands out to me and just pops its head back up from time to time. And even now, like my overwhelmedness and everything too, I still bring back to that burnout, which is, it's like something just was broken at that stage. It's really strange, and it's been such a recovery ever since then. But anyway, that is what it is. And what I do like is that we've been so intentional with that process, and it's never been excusing the situation, but being understanding of the situation and then the difficultiness of it and the realness of it, but just that intentional side of things of growing and working through those sorts of stuff. One of the things I wish we'd done sooner though is get professional help.
Yeah.
You know, I think it took us so long it took us until it was too late. You know what I mean? Like I was already burnt out. My mental health was really, really bad. Yours then became really bad. But just getting that professional help before to just understand some small things and just understand what professional help actually is and what's entailed of it. Because I think before I really saw it as a weakness. I saw it as, I don't need to go there. I'm not that bad. And so I think I've just got a very different point of view of that now.
Yeah.
So I wish we did that.
Yeah, it's definitely not something that's like you're weak for going to see this person, or you're really on the rocks for going to get some extra input.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, lots of people wait till that stage.
Exactly.
But yeah, it is.
Well, how intentional were we when we started dating, right?
Yeah.
Of getting help and input.
Yeah.
And then you just get into that complacent stage.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, we're married now. We've already got all that. We've gone through that period. We've sought help. We've had a lot of people input. And then you just don't. You just don't do that anymore. And that's where it's like, and it's only been, since my burnout that now we're continually getting help and professional help and seeking more support and trying to grow a lot more intentionally. Not that we're never intentional about our growth, but there's just that period where the external input, I think, wasn't there.
Well, I don't think it was I don't think it was a priority. It didn't feel pressing, and especially the busier we got, the less it kind of took up space. So
yeah, yep.
I'm going to take another sip, and it might be a bit of a saga. So
yeah, okay, you take your time. Did you get anything? Did you drink any?
No.
Great. So things you think were done really well and you wouldn't change. But again, I wouldn't change anything. Like even what you said before about us having more adventures and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, like I would have loved to do more international travel with you before we had kids. That would have been amazing because we've had the travel bug for ages now, but we just can't financially do it, right? And practically do it with the kids. So that's something I wish we did do earlier, but I wouldn't change that at all because the life we've had has been amazing. Even through the difficultiness, that has really shaped a lot of the culture within our family and in our relationship. So I wouldn't change any of it. But I think something that we've done really well, we've always been a team. I think just having that team mentality of I actually need to understand you more so that I can do my role as husband better. It's not just a matter of like I need to, learn more about what a good husband is. I need to learn more about what is a good husband to you.
Yeah.
Like what do you need in a husband? And I think that's something that we've done really well is start to unpack each other's side of stuff, like the good, the bad, the ugly, but then how does that work together? So it's always had that team mentality. I think that's something that's been really good for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think pretty similar to that. We spent a lot of time really early on just getting to know each other about like what has made us us, and not just this, I went to this school when I was this old. It was like the more serious kind of difficult conversations, so that when we did continue into our relationship, it wasn't that I was just like, why does Blair do this?
Yeah.
I mean, there was stuff that I was still learning, but I understood, he's got this experience and this is his values and this is probably why he's reacting this way. Or this is the clash. I think that context really helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good, I'm glad that we did it that way.
Yeah.
And I think with parenting, we have never had a solid parenting technique. Like we haven't been subscribed to this type of parenting. And there's so many things that we're like, I've got no idea. But I do think something that's we've done well is again, that being a team in it and just kind of taking it as it comes and dealing with it and not boxing ourselves in, which helps with flexibility when things need to change, because I think that's one trap that people fall into. And it also helps with grace, knowing, we've made a mistake. We can kind of work on that. Yeah.
But just the attitude of like, oh no, we're going to keep working on that.
Yeah.
It's not like, we've got that sorted now. It's like, no, it's a continual growth, continual learning. This is a lifelong journey. It's not a month thing. Like it's forever. We're going to keep growing in this. Yeah. And then that can be quite daunting at times as well. Like, oh man, is it always going to be like this? And my view on it is like, no, it's going to get easier because the longer that we've actually been married and working through that, the easier the conversations have been. So the turnaround is better and greater,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Next one, what are each other's green flags? I love how you're always so ready to help. Like you are just, I can rely on you just 120%. Like I don't have to ask, I don't have to like second guess if you're on my corner or if you're there to support me or anything else. Like even in a practical sense, right? You know, the fact that I'm not working today or this afternoon is because you've helped me so much with my actual job, right? And you're just so willing to jump to that and stuff that because you know me, you know the things that stress me out, you know that you can do this better and I know you can do this better, and it's not a matter of like, oh, I've got to help. And it's actually this sacrificial side of you that you're like, no, I want to do this because I love you. And that's just one as well, you're speaking to my love language too, and you're so just ready for that. And even with the kids, you're so ready for what's needed in those moments, and so that's a huge green flag for me.
Thanks, baby. Mine is that you let me help you. No, I'm just, I think for you, the biggest green flag, one of the biggest green flags that I've noticed from the beginning and is still the case, is that you're so willing to be vulnerable and to be intentional and work on things. Like you've never had this, you've always from the very beginning had this ability to be like, oh no, I need help in this, or I want to be better in this. And not this attitude of like, I am good now. Like, why do I need to work on anything? Or I don't need to let people in. And that's been so helpful in our relationship. It's been incredibly helpful for your work because you've gotten into roles and positions in your jobs that are incredible because of your willingness to learn and to rely on and to kind of not look silly, but just like for some people it feels silly to be in that vulnerable place, but it's actually a really strong stance to make and super, super helpful with your parenting and your input and all this stuff that we talk about on the podcast all the time, you know, the mental load conversations, and even the other day's one, manipulative, what is it? Incompetence. Like all of that stuff, weaponized. Yeah. All of that stuff that can so easily be generalized and categorized to men. You've been so willing to learn in it and listen and have conversations and be challenged on things, and then also challenge back, but in a constructive way. So I think that's pretty much made the foundation of our family. That set the tone for our family, which is huge.
Teamwork. Nailed it.
Dreamwork.
Bop it. We fist bumped. Cool. What do you wish you'd... So speaking is sometimes very hard. You do this very well for the podcast. It is so hard to read and
It
talk.
is really hard.
What do you wish you'd known sooner about each other?
I don't think there's anything I wish I'd known sooner, because I feel like we knew the basics really quickly. I think I probably wish that I understood each of our triggers better, or the extent of our, not the casual, like normal times, the more like extreme points. But even then, knowing that sooner would have I'm not sure that sooner really fixes that. Yeah. It's come out when it's needed to come out.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, is the journey has actually been so instrumental in our growth. So sooner I was like, well, the journey might have been shorter and the impact might have been less. But I think something that it's not even necessarily what I knew about you earlier. It was more about I wish I knew the growth that we had to take sooner. So I didn't get me by surprise. Do you mean? Like, because when we first started dating, we're doing the internship together, and we were finding out like after a while that it's because we're so different. I wish I just, you know, in hindsight, and it doesn't get me down or anything, but what would have been cool is actually went into that relationship knowing that, look, you're going to have to work on all this sort of stuff, because I think it would have just made, I just wish I knew that this is the stages that we go down, or the path we go down, so that I could be like, yeah, cool, rather than get irritated about different things and whatever else. But I'm just trying to find something to throw out there. Yeah. So I don't really have anything like that either.
I think just like knowing each other's values is another one. I think if we understood those things earlier, but we never knew we needed to know them till we needed to know them. So it's hard, but I think that could have helped us navigate those conversations and tensions. Hey guys, just wanted to pop in and take a sec to talk about the extra content you can find over on our Patreon and our Spotify subscription. We have a fun little community growing over there with extra episodes, extra stories. We're also going to have resources, messages back and forth, and also submitting listener stories through that portal as well. So
also outro themes.
If you want to be a part of our closer knit community here at Honey We Need a Chat, please hop on over to Patreon or Spotify subscriptions and join us there. We would love to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
How did we decide on baby names, and any tips with that process? Well, honestly, so I pretty much picked our 3 boys, and you picked our daughter's name. And we don't really use our kids' names on this podcast, so we're not really going to go down the line of their names and what their names are. But the way that we did it was pretty different. So the first one was it was an old YouTube clip,
a very well-known YouTube clip,
like very, very old YouTube clip, and like when YouTube was sort of coming out, sort of when only a couple of things went viral rather than a new viral thing every day, right? It was one of those, and it just stuck out in my head, and I quoted it, and we're like, oh, what about that name? That's a cute name. And then we did it. That's how we did that name, and that was pretty much a lock-in. But what we would do as well, we would go for drives, and we'll just say names.
Yeah, I would just read out lists.
And you would write them down. So Amy would go on like websites, right? And what would you do?
Baby names. I just search baby names, and then if we had like a vibe we were looking for, so like our kids' middle names were, until this baby, short, kind of
different,
edgy, different. And so I'd look up like short 1-syllable middle names, or if we had kind of a vibe we were looking for, I would search up that type of name and then go through the list, and Blair would be Blair was a lot more picky than I was, than I was, which is good because we've landed in a good place. But so it would be a lot of no, heck no.
But sometimes you would say them again. I'm like, oh yeah, what about that one? You already said no to that one.
That would actually happen quite a bit. Like months later, it would come up again. You'd be like, oh, that's not too bad. But I think all the ones we actually landed on, we were straight up. When we first heard it, we're like, that's great. Or when we first considered it. Every other one that we were kind of like, maybe, we never really stuck with.
Yeah.
The only one, so I found our daughter's name on Facebook one time before we were even married. I think we were dating.
I don't even think we were dating, because I'm pretty sure when we started talking about kids, you just always.
No, we were dating because
we're probably dating. I think it's where we were working.
It was a friend of the son of the person I worked with, and no, I was not stalking. I probably was scrolling through Facebook, just like seeing who's friends with who. Anyway, the name popped up, and I'd never heard it before, and I was like, that name is so beautiful, and it just haunted me until we chose to call our daughter that. However many years
Well,
later.
I didn't really have a choice.
You had no choice.
Yeah, but I loved the name.
I will say though, because we had 2 boys and then we had her, and so by the time we were actually pregnant with her, we didn't know with any of the first 3 what we were having. I was like, I'm not sure if I want that name anymore. We'd said it so much for so many years, and it was good because you're like, you need to use the name, because if we don't, you'll just kick yourself. And I'm so glad now, because it is a beautiful, beautiful name.
And her nickname too.
And her nicknames.
She's got so many nicknames.
Yeah.
And I wish we could tell you guys, because they're so cute. But because there's even names that she's called herself trying to say her name. And
actually, it started with our oldest trying to call her what he calls her.
Yeah.
Which as a little baby, and it came out wrong. Anyway, every time we meet another one of her, because it's not a very common name, but it is getting more common. It's like the most exciting thing ever, because our boys' names are all very common, but they're cool. And then the last one was, we had so many names because we had a miscarriage before we had our baby as well. So we'd had quite an extended period of expecting during that time. And so we'd had, I think we went through 3 or 4 that we were like, no, this is what it's going to be. And then the last, I don't know, like in the last few months, I think it was, of our pregnancy with him, there was a character in a show that we were watching, which is so funny because it wouldn't be, it's not like we're like, this character is amazing, but if anyone asks, that's where we got the name from. So
and it was just like, I think I just threw it out. I'm like, what about this name? And then Amy's like, oh yeah. And that was it. And that was the name.
There we go. So that's nice and vague for you, because you don't know what the names are.
YouTube and TV and Facebook. That's how we got our names.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was lists, and we'll just go through them again. And then we did. So we pick a first name, then pick a second name, like a middle name, and then obviously use our last name. And we just went through that for months, and we found that fun to go through. Yeah.
We did it before. I think we were looking at baby names like early on, even maybe before we were married, right? Yeah. And I've shared that list with so many people.
Yeah.
Since we've stopped having kids, just being like, these are some names. Because we have lots of friends that have ended up having their baby and not having a name for a while. I'm like, we have so many names on a list. I can share them for you. No one's used them yet.
No.
Anyway, that's a good question.
Great. All right. So this last one is a bit more of a heavier one, and I think it's an important one. So we've done a lot of questions about us, answered a lot of questions about us, and this is a bit more generalized, right? So we could kind of see this as this was actually a write-in, but as a question: do you believe in don't go to bed angry after conflict? Why or why not? If you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. I grew up hearing that. I can't remember if my parents would say it or not. And so I grew up.
Lightsabers are going down.
No, they're slowly losing their power. I grew up believing that that was something that needed to happen. There's actually a Bible verse that says, "Don't let the sun set on your anger," I think is what it is. But my understanding now is that that's actually a misinterpretation. It's less about don't go to sleep angry, and it's more about don't let your sun set on your anger, meaning don't let things finish in anger. So not about the time, of the day necessarily, more just about don't let things just linger in anger, because that's not going to go anywhere. I think it can be damaging if you're like, we've just had a massive argument and we're going to sleep and we can't go to sleep angry. I just don't think that how are you supposed to not be angry unless you just like magically come up to a conclusion, which is great if you do.
Yeah. I think it's each to their own, right? And again, this is a conversation and a value that you would have to come up with your partner to discuss that together. Because, so for me, more for you actually, but for our circumstances, sometimes you just need that space and then we come back to it and allowing that space, something that I needed though, because in our early days, this was a big thing. I wanted to talk about it right then and there because it would just sit in my head and I just wanted to talk about it. And I think I just did not want to be a couple where things were unsaid, and we just brushed it off and ignored issues. I'm like, no, I want to work through this. So something that was given to us, which was actually a really good piece of advice, was that if Amy needs space, I need to give her space, but she needs to promise that we'll come back to it.
And I need to bring it back.
And you need to bring it back. So the responsibility was on you, actually, then, because it's not in a Amy, come on sort of a way, but it's actually not. This is a value for me. I need to talk about this. This is a fear of mine of what this could turn into. We're in a conversation. Amy says, I just can't talk about it right now. I need to respect that, give her the space that she needs. And if that's overnight, then that's overnight. That's going to sleep. If you're still frustrated, if I'm still frustrated, whatever else. But you just need to promise to come back. And that works really well for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it's about the time of the day. It's just that commitment to not bury the issues because like we've said earlier, the issues come back alive. They're buried alive and they come back. They always come back in different ways and stuff. So, I think, look, if you can deal with it before going to bed, great. But I don't think that's a law. I don't think that's...
No, and I think it can be either used... It can either become a pressure that you put on yourself to resolve things prematurely, or it can be a manipulative thing that someone can put out there. One partner can be like, we can't go to bed angry. We got to talk about this. And the other person's not ready. In saying all of that, we don't go to bed angry often.
I'm trying to think if we have.
Yeah. Honestly, probably it's mostly me in the middle of the night just sitting there getting angry about something new all of a sudden, and then I talk to you about it the next day.
Or you go to sleep, have a dream, wake up angry.
That's usually what comes from. Navigate, if they become an anger thing, which is more intense, then it is kind of in that moment, or it's navigated until it's sorted. It's not usually there for multiple days on a row.
No. I don't think we've had more than a day.
Yeah.
But sometimes we'll talk about something and then come back to it
absolutely.
again. Like if something is like, it's still not sitting right with me, or I forgot to mention this part of the situation, whatever else. So it's not, it's, I think having a conversation before going to bed helps that journey keep going rather than just festering. And then you come back again, you're like, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. I think like you said, it's each their own. You find something that works for you guys. You find what rhythm works for you in terms of being able to talk about things in a clear, neutral, encouraging, uplifting, whatever way. So you're not in the moment angry, but you figure out what restrictions need to happen in terms of not just letting it linger. Anyway, each their own. You have to figure out what works for you guys. And then if you need a rule that helps you make sure that it's done by the time you just decided on together, great. If you find that's actually restrictive or can be manipulative or can be extra pressure that's not helpful, then that's really important too.
Yeah, they're good. So thank you so much, chatters, for writing that in. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really good. I love sort of unpacking that for ourselves too, because sometimes we just go through the motions and completely forget about our journey and all the different things that we've had to learn and grow through and continue to grow through. So it's good. And we love doing that with you guys.
Just also on our chatter episode to follow this, we're going to go through some funny relationship.
Yeah, we want to try something different. And so we're going to go to our chatters for that. So if you would like to be part of this community where you get to input into these conversations, input into this podcast and all the things that we're doing, head on over there because we'd love to, add to our awesome group of people over there that are already doing that.
Yeah.
Go to Patreon or go to our website.
Go to our website. You can see where to get the extra content there. I thought I might read one funny relationship story to close us off. And do a little taster. Yeah, exactly. So this is a thread on r/dating over 30. Don't really know why it's on dating over 30. I think it's applicable to anyone.
Oh, that's offensive.
But it's funny dating stories, ? And there's one I read when I was getting ready to put this together that made me laugh a lot. So a few years ago, I was going out on a ton of dates. Anyway, I set up a dinner date with a guy. I got there first and decided to just go ahead and get a table. A couple minutes after being seated, I looked up and see my date coming towards me. I get up and say, hello. I give him a big hug. I sit down and ask him how his weekend is going. He just stands there and says, good, with a smile on his face. And then he asks me how I'm doing. I answer, but I'm like, why is this guy not sitting down? We chit-chat about something else for a minute. And then I suddenly realize this guy is not sitting down because he's the waiter.
Oh, no, awesome. That's a good one.
The person goes, ha, 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 ha. I could tell quickly that the waiter was trying to place me. He thought we must know each other. Anyway, I was so embarrassed and just decided to play along. My date arrived. He got a hug too. And at the end of the dinner, the waiter dropped off a check and was like, it was so good to see you again.
That's awesome. That's a good one.
Anyway, so head on over to the Chatters episode for more of those stories. But we'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks.
Good chat. Thanks, guys.